I'm TC Cooksley. I'm a broker in the Culpeper area, and this is Max Sternberg. He is our local Better Insurance representative. He has almost 8 years of experience in the business of insurance. He worked for a large nationwide company, and now he's gone out on his own. And there's a lot going on different in the area of car and housing insurance, and the more he talked about it, the more I thought, gee, Max, you ought to do a Facebook Live and let everybody else know.
Why not, right?
So, without further ado, I'd love to get started. So, what's happening in the insurance market?
Well, it's kind of tumultuous right now. And so for those of you who don't know, I'm Max Sternberg, and like TC just mentioned, I've been in the insurance industry for several years. I was one of the top producing sales agents for one of the big names for insurance. And so I've seen a lot of ups and downs in this industry. And what's going on right now is that the insurance industry is kind of mirroring the housing market, the banking market. You've seen some bank closures.
I have.
And so the insurance industry is kind of in a tumult, but it's still a good time to shop for insurance for home and auto. You have earlier this year the bank in California closing.
Yeah.
Which is a good example. It was a very big deal because there was a lot of investments going into that bank. You see a kind of mirror with some of the larger companies for insurance where one loses $1 billion in market capital. Another has a combined loss ratio or combined ratio in the 130s, which essentially means for every dollar that they earn, they're losing $1.30 due to claims. So it's kind of a tumultuous time.
Are they in the business of losing money, or are they going to raise our rates?
No, I mean these are all businesses. They're all in the business of making money. But when it comes to raising rates, that's probably the biggest question that I do get asked. Is look, I mean, I've been with this company for X amount of years, and all of a sudden my rates are going up double-digit percentages, and I haven't had any claims or tickets or accidents. That's very common, especially right now. And so one of the things that are going on, I would say kind of the top 3 things that are impacting insurance have absolutely nothing to do with people's driving history or their claims history.
So would you suggest that people shop for rates with you?
Absolutely. I would suggest that you shop with agencies. And so there are a lot of what's called captive insurance companies, where you are only, when you ask them for a quote for home and auto insurance, you're only shopping through one company. And then there's agencies, like the Better Insurance Agency. And then I can shop through actually multiple companies, about 12 or 13 now. I'm actually getting a few more right now. But yeah, I mean, it is a great time to shop, even though things are in a tumult right now. One of the things that I'm seeing really is in the market is that people are getting varying different rates and quotes for insurance, but the same level of coverage. In fact, last week I had a client who was looking for home insurance. They were buying a home. And through one of the big names, they were quoted like $2,400. And it was a modest home, but I was able to find insurance for just about half that. And it was line per line, the exact same level of coverage, the exact same details. And so it really is a tumultuous time in the insurance industry, but it is a great time to shop. These are businesses. They're in the market of making money. And so yeah, they're going to raise rates. Yeah, there's going to be price hikes, but there are things that consumers can do.
So if I've had my insurance for a long time with the same company, I get all those discounts from being a long time. There's no way you can beat out what I get quoted, isn't that right?
Well, that depends. See, the thing of it is that different companies have different weights of discounts and apply different discounts in various different ways. Some companies have more discounts. So, USAA I'll throw their name out there. They're more geared towards veterans,
Right.
or people who have been in the military. That's their niche. They have military. Well, there's plenty of other companies that have military discounts, and just because they have a military discount doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best one out there when it comes to getting the best price. When it comes to other discounts, a lot of things that people are wanting to do right now is bundle. And insurance companies want you to bundle too. In fact, when it comes to quoting for insurance, a lot of insurance companies right now, because of the market, are tightening up their guidelines and restrictions. To where if you're just looking for home or you're just looking for auto, it's not going to be as advantageous to you monetarily if you're also looking for both home and auto.
Oh, so I'll save more by bundling.
You can save more by bundling.
Even with that rider that goes in between them that connects them, I forget what it's called.
Yeah, absolutely. And home and auto, multiple homes, RVs, umbrella policies, jewelry policies. The more that you kind of stack together with some insurance companies, the more likely they are to quote you, much less find you a good policy.
Well, we live in a farming community. Do you have farm insurance?
Absolutely. And so farm communities, farm insurance, that is something that a lot more people are doing now with the price of produce nowadays. I just went to the supermarket today, and we were looking at zucchini, and there was this little tiny zucchini, but they were all kind of a little gross looking, and so we started our own zucchini garden. And so, not to say that we're a full blown farm, but people are moving in that direction where they want organic, fresh. They want fresh produce. And so if you have the acreage, if you have a farm, even if it's a hobby farm, even if it's something to where you're not selling commercially, go out and quote. The worst thing that can happen is you find you have the best deal.
Really? So I can even get my hydroponic garden insured?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when it comes to gardens and little oddities, a lot of that falls into what's called personal property coverage.
Okay.
And so this is one of the things actually that insurance companies do to try and raise the rates a little bit, because a lot of your home insurance rates are based off of percentages. So you have your dwelling coverage, which is the estimated rebuild cost of your home, and then you have what's called coverage C, which is all of your clothes, your furniture, electronics, your massive shoe collection, or that leftover storage stockpile of Clorox wipes and toilet paper from 3 years ago. From that, you can also include your hydroponic system. You just can't insure the water itself. Water is kind of hard to insure.
Yeah, but
plants, there's usually certain limits.
Those systems are pretty pricey.
Yeah, they can be, absolutely.
So, going on other things, a lot of people around here have home offices. Mm-hmm. How does that affect homeowners insurance?
Great question. So with home offices, I'm no exception. I've got a home office too. You have very select limits when it comes to certain carriers, when it comes to your business property. So if you own, an Etsy business and you've got clothes on the rack that you're trying to sell out of your house, you might not have all those clothes insured on a normal home insurance policy. You're probably going to need to add an endorsement or a rider, adding that home business, especially if customers come to your house. That's a liability issue.
So if I keep it separate in a shed.
If you keep it separate in a shed, if that shed's still on your property, that's still liability that we got to take into consideration. But if you don't have customers coming to your house, that's a big indicator that a lot of insurance companies might be a little bit more favorable towards that.
Gotcha.
So that's a great question, though. But again, that's not the biggest things that are impacting the insurance industry right now. There's a couple of big changes that have already happened, and things that as the market is shifting is really just kind of it's impacting it to a lesser degree. Two things that I would say that's impacting Virginians specifically.
Yeah, there's some big deals.
There are some big deals. So starting in July, we had 2 laws pass and change. The first one, it's pretty simple. If you see flashing lights, if you see a police stop up ahead, slow down and move over, because you can get ticketed now. And so if you have more tickets, you have more incidents, that costs more on insurance. I'm sure people don't want to pay more than they have to. And so if you see those flashing lights, move over, slow down if you can.
When I came into Virginia yesterday, through Winchester, there was a sign on the road that said that the passing lane was only for passing only, and they can give you a ticket if you're staying in that lane.
Yeah, that might be specific to Winchester. I haven't heard about that, but look, I mean, that's common sense. That's how my wife drives. She gets on me all the time if I'm staying in the left-hand lane, so
I
just...
wouldn't do that in Winchester.
It's called a passing lane for a reason. You use it to pass, and so it's great. But that is kind of the easier of the two laws that's recently changed. The other one that specifically impacts insurance providers is one that's called the stacked coverage law. So everyone who is insured in Virginia who has auto insurance, when you get your renewal, you are going to be notified of whether you want to have stacked coverage or if you want to keep things the way that they were. And the way stacked coverage works is this. Essentially, Virginia is catching up with other states in adding this law, and if you elect to have stacked coverage on your underinsured motorist liability coverage, if somebody hits you who is not carrying enough insurance, you can elect to stack their coverage first for that accident, for their liability, and then yours on top of that.
Oh, so I'm not as much impacted as they are.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Or you can keep things the way that they were. There is a cost difference between the two, and you are able to elect this coverage or waive it this go around. So at your renewal, you should be asked by every insurance provider whether or not you want to enact this coverage. If you do, there's a small cost associated. It depends on the plan. But beyond that, it is a pretty good liability coverage because Virginia is kind of squirrely when it comes to liability anyway. You pay $500, you get to say you're self-insured, and you've got $90,000 in the bank to take care of yourself. But yeah, this is a big law, and it's one that every single person's going to encounter.
Gotcha.
Other things that are impacting insurance now is pretty much everywhere. Inflation is going to be the big reason. Why did my insurance rates raise? Because I've had no tickets or accidents. Dollar's worth less now. But vehicles are worth more. Car parts are worth more and harder to get. So all that factors into the availability to be able to repair a car for $6,000 or just declare a total for $30,000.
So that's something we didn't talk about, is the fact that in Virginia, if I have my car, own it free and clear, I don't actually have to get insurance.
If you own it free and clear, you don't have to have the comprehensive and collision coverage. I'd still heavily recommend liability coverage.
Can you explain why?
Well,
That's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to make sure that you're covered in case of an accident. You shouldn't be able to get into an accident and call 2 days later, hey, I need insurance for this accident. That's not how this works. That's not how insurance works. You need to have the coverage beforehand. I've seen incidents where people have gone without coverage and they have completely wrecked their financial lives for decades to come because they had to deal with medical bills, they had to deal with the lawsuits coming from the other individuals, and they're out of a car, so they don't have the ability to go to work anymore after they recover. So please get insurance. Don't go without it. Don't self-insure saying you have the money when you don't.
Now, my other question is, one of my previous tenants was in an auto accident that she caused, and her liability coverage didn't cover her medical, and it didn't cover the rental car.
Right. So there are two coverages on auto insurance that you're going to want on your policy. The first one is medical expense coverage. So that covers you and your passengers in case of an incident. The usual standard minimum that I see is $1,000, but that covers like an ambulance ride. You want like $5,000 on there because that can cover for scans, that can cover for some therapy. And that's if it's just you. If it's other passengers in the car, you want to make sure your medical expense coverage is there too. But the other big thing is transportation expense or rental car coverage. Now, the standard for Virginia, and the standard what it used to be that I see, is $900 per incident and up to $30 a day. That doesn't cover much, especially now. And going back to what I said earlier about car parts,
It took me 30 days to find a new car when my husband told us mine.
yeah, no, I know a realtor who had to wait 8 months for a car part for herself, which means that she blew through her transportation expense, rental car expense coverage. And so $900, that's not enough in most instances. What I try to do is I try to introduce $1,500 per car. There's some carriers that can do higher. So some like $2,250 or $3,000. It really just depends on which carrier comes in lowest. And so if you give your info to an agent who can shop through multiple carriers, one carrier might have the least amount of price, the second carrier might have the second least, but they might have more advantages in placing you with better coverage.
Gotcha. So not all coverage is apples to apples.
Correct.
So we really have to look at the pages.
You have some oranges and tangerines out there somewhat, so you got to make sure you get the right fruit.
So we talked about bundling and saving money.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about how often we should shop.
I would say, on average, about every 2 to 3 years. Just put your feelers out there, see what's going on. If you're adding or removing a driver or a vehicle, if you've done renovations to your home, especially if you put a new roof on. If you put a new roof on, shop for insurance. Because a lot of carriers put a new roof discount on, and like I said before, they weight that discount differently. So if you were paying X amount before with an older roof, sure, your same company could apply a discount for having a newer roof, but there might be another company out there that works a little bit better.
Oh no, he's fine. He's fine.
It's all right. It's fine.
We don't mind. Dogs are covered in this interview.
We've got a wandering dog in the office. It's okay.
Yes, our pets aren't covered in homeowners. Are they covered ever in cars?
Unless there's a specific endorsement, not quite. That's a little bit of a gray area. But we love our pets. So we have a cat who adopted us. So it's interesting.
What is your mission as the Better Insurance? Why did you start it?
Well, I was a very successful sales individual for a very big company.
Here in Virginia.
Here in Virginia. But I saw people start, especially after the events of 2-3 years ago, I started seeing people treated like numbers. I started seeing the bottom dollar be more important than customer satisfaction. And so that's my mission, is to provide a better service, a better experience, in order to be able to, have a better case of options and insurance. Because the Better Insurance Agency, my company, which opened in November, the word better in there, that's not just for you. That's holding me to a standard. And so I got to make sure that I'm doing better. And, with this market, there's a lot of opportunity. Like I was saying, you can line things up, match things up between carriers, and one is half the price of another. Another huge success story is teenage drivers. I've seen some parents start freaking out because of their teenage driver. You got a driver's license. Oh wait, we have to insure you now. And so, insurance companies, they go through the roof.
Yeah, they do.
But this, particular success story I'm thinking of, we were able to save them $300, give them better liability limits, and add their son.
Wow.
So there are opportunities out there. And with these price hikes that are going on with these big insurance companies, not all of them are price hiking to the same degree. Not all of them are doing it at the same time. And so when your company price hikes, see if there's something else out there. And if there is, you're locked in for another 6 months. You're locked in for another year at that rate. And if they price hike again, hey, look, if you're with an agency, we can just shop all over again for you, find the next best deal.
So, I notice online there's companies out there that shop for you.
Mm-hmm.
They're AI, so I have issues with it. But do you think you do a better job than them?
Well, I mean, when it comes to an AI company, or when it comes to a person behind the desk, look, AI, I think that technology is kind of still in its infancy. People are exploring it, and from certain circles, it's kind of dangerous. But with that said, I always want to make sure that every quote that we try to provide is accurate as possible. Because when it's not accurate, and when a machine's working everything up and, it might miss a few things, that's where you can really get into some muddy waters in the insurance business.
Great.
And so having a person behind the desk, behind the computer, making sure that everything is double checked, that it's accurate, is essential. So, it could be as small as an error of it's a 2-car garage instead of a 1-car garage. Or it could be as big of an error as, well, your roof is actually 20 years old and we aren't supposed to insure you. Or there's an extra 1,000 square feet somewhere. That's why, more often than not, when you do get a home insurance policy, there's an inspector that comes by within the first 30 to 45 days afterward. You're a realtor, you know about that. But we want to make sure there's no tree running through the house, that there's no damage there.
There's not a lake underneath.
There's not a lake underneath the property. And so, yeah, if you've got a moat around it, it's supposed to be there, that's okay. But if it's not supposed to be there, there might be an issue. Or, they might say, hey, look, you need to fix this damage or we're going to cancel. And so that's why the inspection happens. But it's an interesting industry. Nobody wants to talk about insurance, but everyone needs it. And so I want the general public to be informed of insurance so you can make a better informed decision.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come to my wonderful office here at Elevate on Davis Street in Culpeper today.
Yeah.
So I'm TC Cooksley.
I'm Max Sternberg.
I'm a realtor at One Simple Realty, and Max is the owner of
The Better Insurance Agency.
Please give him a call. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Now, can you share?